Welcome to week 4. This week we examine the work of Innocence Organizations. As we discussed a bit in week 1, Barry Scheck and Peter Neufeld founded the first Innocence Project at the Cardozo School of Law in New York in 1992. It began as a nonprofit legal clinic dedicated to exonerating wrongfully convicted people through DNA testing. In January 2015, it secured the 325th exoneration based on DNA evidence. The Innocence Project has grown through the years to be also a public policy organization focused on reforming the criminal justice system to prevent future wrongful convictions. In the last 2.5 decades, more than 60 additional innocence organizations have been established throughout the country and around the world. Many of these organizations follow the New York model. They are legal clinics housed in law schools where attorneys and clinical staff supervise law students as they represent clients who are wrongfully convicted and have claims of actual innocence. But there are other types of innocence organizations as well. Some are housed in public defender offices. Some focus only on cases where there is DNA evidence, but most handle cases whether or not they involve biological evidence which can be subjected to DNA testing. The Illinois Innocence Project is unique in that it is housed in a university, not a law school, and that it works with graduate and undergraduate students as well as law students from the state's 3 public law schools. Beginning in 2001, Scheck and Neufeld began to create an Innocence Network to unite these projects in their efforts. The Innocence Network was officially established in 2005 with 21 member organizations. Today, the Innocence Network has 65 member organizations, which include 56 U.S.-based projects and 11 non-U.S.-based projects. They're in Argentina, Australia, Canada, France, Ireland, Israel, Italy, the Netherlands, New Zealand, South Africa, and the United Kingdom. And there are additional organizations being established in Latin America and elsewhere as we speak. The network operates as a resource for the projects in representing their individual clients, but also in their policy reform work. Many of the members consult with legislators and law enforcement officials on the local, state, and federal levels. They conduct research and training. They produce scholarship and propose a wide range of remedies to prevent wrongful convictions. Now, the first video this week examines the development and work of these organizations. Lawyers, exonerees, and their advocates discuss how innocence organizations fill a void in our justice system, providing legal services that specialize in post-conviction work and resources to those who are incarcerated without means. These resources include money for DNA testing, which costs thousands of dollars, but also the resources of investigators to track down witnesses and documents and evidence, and scientific and medical experts trained in the latest developments in their fields. The interviewees also discuss some of the frustrations of innocence work, such as when they discovered that the evidence has not been preserved, or documents have been withheld, or worse, destroyed. Or how, most frustrating of all, when legal rules and procedures prevent them from being able to access the court, and they must give up on a case, although they believe their client to be innocent. Almost all of the Innocence organizations work with law students. So the second video discusses the importance of engaging law students in innocence work. These students provide intellectual capital as well as energy, passion, and free labor. The students often develop close relationships with innocence clients, which gives the clients hope and allows students to understand the real-life impact of their efforts. But perhaps most importantly, involving students in innocence work assists in training the next generation of lawyers. Lawyers who will be prosecutors as well as defense attorneys, and some eventually judges. Their innocence work will help to ensure that as attorneys they will work for truth and justice rather than conviction rates or succumbing to political pressure. Their experiences will also encourage those who will practice in other areas of law to nonetheless provide pro bono services to innocence cases or assist those who are exonerated with their legal needs. These students who work with the Innocence Organizations will help to transform our criminal justice system. One of the many problems for most of the Innocence Organizations, however, is securing funding to conduct their work. So the third video examines the precarious state of these groups. Most Innocence Organizations are funded by small, temporary federal and state grants and donations from their local communities. In 2004, Congress passed the Justice for All Act that included Title IV, Innocence Protection Act. And this act provides federal grants for some innocence work through the National Institute of Justice. These grants are a step at providing Innocence Project's resources. However, grants are not considered a long-term source of funding. Private universities are sometimes able to fund projects housed in their law schools. However, public universities and other projects have a much more difficult time securing the funds they need to pursue their work. A very few groups are financed by private benefactors, such as the California Innocence Project, whose primary sponsor is the rock band, the Eagles. But they're an exception. Many innocence organizations spend much of their time scrambling for funds to keep their doors open, which takes significant time away from engaging in innocence work. The final video this week examines some of the new directions in innocence work. These directions include advances in DNA, as well as the growing exposure of invalid or junk science that has been used to wrongfully convict innocent men and women. The video also discusses a new focus on wrongfully convicted women and how some of their issues are different from men's issues, both in terms of wrongful convictions and their needs once exonerated. Women are typically wrongfully convicted for crimes against their family members. Long-entrenched gender roles expect women to be caretakers for their children and husbands, and they are punished for injuries to these individuals, whether they committed the crimes against them or not. This includes being convicted when someone else committed the crime on the theory that they should have stopped that person, and being convicted even though no crime actually occurred, as in the case of accidental death, which was misdiagnosed as shaken baby syndrome. The video mentions the new exciting women's project at the Center for Wrongful Convictions at Northwestern University School of Law, and its focus on these issues as an important new development in innocence work. So please, now watch this week's presentations on the work of innocence organizations.